9 legions, each traitors to the vows they gave to the Imperium of Man, but each of them utterly unique. The way they wage war, the reason for their betrayal, the doctrines and philosophies they stand by. So let's chip away at the armour together and delve into the core of their doctrines and philosophies. Let us explore the legions and their Primarchs. Let's delve into the mind of Traitors.
All I ever wanted was the truth. Remember those words as you read the ones that follow. I never set out to topple my father's kingdom of lies from a sense of misplaced pride. I never wanted to bleed the species to its marrow, reaving half the galaxy clean of human life in this bitter crusade. I never desired any of this, though I know the reasons for which it must be done. But all I ever wanted was the truth.
Truth, an often subjective experience. Who are we as humans, beings whose perception of the world can often be misinterpreted or false, to give the absolute truth? Why do the word bearers burn and bleed the galaxy in the name of the primordial truth, the worship of chaos? It starts upon Terra. It is the 30th millennium, and unity upon Terra has been achieved. The wars of unification are over, and the numerous tribes, kingdoms, and enclaves have been brought into the Imperium of Man. From the defeated peoples of Terra, their sons were taken. They were to become warriors in the army of the one who had crushed them, the Emperor of Mankind. These children were all too aware of the failures and ignorance of their lineages, a stain that they had to overcome. These children became the 17th Legion, the Imperial Heralds. Encompassed by the words, "If we kill everyone who resists us, then we will reign over a kingdom of ashes." 17th Legion were more than just warriors. They were bringing the enlightenment of the Imperial truth, the doctrines and teachings that separated them from the primitives that were their defeated parents. A legion who took to its belief so zealously that it became a source of their pride, a constant flow of dopamine that made them feel above the ordinary man. For how could they not? Gene-enhanced super soldiers who brought to the scattered colonies of man the enlightened doctrines of the Emperor, a doctrine that decried the belief in the supernatural, using science as the only certainty. It was this self-righteousness that became a canker in the heart of the Legion's philosophy, a string that would be tugged by their father, Lorgar Aurelian. Decades into the Great Crusade, the 17th son, the Primarch Lorgar, was found upon the world of Colchis. Lorgar was reunited with his sons, and what began was a shift in the mindset and doctrines of the 17th. Lorgar was a man of faith, a contradiction to the teachings of the Emperor. He believed the resplendent golden man of his visions was the god of humanity, his creator, his father. A new philosophical approach was created. Seeing the power of the Emperor, how could he not be divine? The philosophy became might is right. The Emperor's psychic powers were unmatched. His presence was awe-inspiring. The very majesty and wonder he exuded was nothing short of divine. This accumulated in Lorgar's creation of the Levitico Divinatus, a scholar's work or a divine sermon. The Primarch created a tome filled with his supportive reasoning for the Emperor's divinity. Faith. It was not enough just to follow him, but to have faith in him. Faith is the soul of any army, be it vested in primitive religion or enlightened truth. It makes even the least soldier mighty. The craven is remade worthy, and through its balm any hardship can be endured. Faith ennobles all of the worlds the soldiers undertakes, be they so base or vile, and imparts them to the golden spark of transcendent purpose. Faith, something everyone shares. Faith in gods, in philosophies, in friends and family. Faith is empowering. Faith is inspiring. but faith can also be self-righteous. The Legion shifted from their zealous atheistic belief to a religious one. They had seen the Emperor and his power. They could see their Primarch and feel the awe-inspiring presence. They had faith in their father, but what about a god? A god whose very genetic material was a part of them. In a way, they were part god. The Legion's doctrine became an extension of Lorgar's worship. Over decades, all came to see the enlightenment that complemented their previous strategies and tactics. Worlds were not to be burned. If we kill everyone who resists us, then we will reign over a kingdom of ashes. The Legion became a holy order, similar to those of our history. They were conquerors in the name of faith, and just because of who they were, they thought themselves to be the pinnacle of virtue, deluded into thinking the strength of religious faith equates to being a good person or soldier. A truly interesting outlook for warriors, separating themselves from their origins. But how can a Legion, a Primarch who claims worship of the Emperor is their core foundation, become corrupted by chaos? It lies in the words,
"The most beautiful and profound emotion we can experience is a sensation of the mystical. It is at the root of all true science. That deeply emotional conviction of the presence of a superior reasoning power, which is revealed in the incomprehensible universe, is my ideal of God."
Truth. Lorgar and his Legion's truth is the sensation of the mystical. The way they conquered and fought was always about building towards a better future, a future they believed in, because it meant they were special. Have you ever felt that? The feeling of an absolute belief in something greater than yourself, the almost rapturous self-importance it fills you with. It's comforting. Lorgar and the Legion's self-righteousness was crushed upon Monarchia, when the Emperor chastised the Legion and shattered their self-image. It left a hole in their heart, a chasm that the worship of chaos could fill. The truth is not that Lorgar and the word-bearers believe in chaos because it is true. It is because it makes them feel above others. The self-righteousness that Lorgar and his sons need became the justification for so much evil. Similar to their pre-heresy tactics, worlds were conquered and temples were erected. People were forced to follow a faith they did not believe, and for the select few who are chosen to be allowed to worship chaos, everyone else is sacrificed to them. Dark gods that embody the worst of us: stagnation, obsession, deceit, and rage. Worst of all, the 17th Legion only see what they do as adherents to a doctrine of faith. They follow the words of their gods, so they cannot even perceive the evil in what they do. A philosophical outlook that exemplifies the criteria of a cult. Only a select few are privy to the information and secrets at the heart. Only a select few are worthy to receive the gifts from worship. Lorgar and his Legion are the pinnacle of evil, pain and suffering inflicted by those who feel zealous and self-righteous doing it. They search within their hearts and the galaxy for the so-called truth, but what they did with it truly condemns them.
These humans, their imaginations are strong. Kill 1,000 men, and they will hate you. Kill 1,000,000 men, and they will queue to face you. But kill a single man, and they will see monsters and devils in every shadow. Kill 12 men, and they will scream and wail in the night, and they will feel fear, not hatred. They're panicky, gossiping beasts, these humans. It serves us to allow them to be so.
Fear, a survival instinct which has repercussions across all of humanity. We fear what may be lurking in the dark. We fear the outsider. We fear change. We fear what will happen to those who we care for. Why are the 8th Legion, the Night Lords, so consumed by the weaponization of fear? It begins on Terra. It is the 30th millennium, and unity upon Terra has been achieved. The war of unification is over, and the numerous tribes, kingdoms, and enclaves have been brought into the Imperium of Man. The 8th Legion's first recruits were drawn from the underground prisons and gulags scattered across the world, a near pitch-black existence where there was no law. Only the strongest and most ruthless survived in the subterranean warrens. The philosophy of survival of the fittest. Children were born into these hellscapes and were taken to be turned into warriors for the Emperor. The 8th Legion's humble origins made them suited for the doctrines and tactics they were destined to follow. Blind justice. The 8th Legion's first role was bringing to heel those whose sins of the past could not live on in the newborn Imperium of Man. When such crimes required not only crushing but retribution, the Emperor deployed the 8th Legion. Blind justice left no room for shades of grey in the 8th Legion's moral universe. There was only guilt or innocence. But the philosophies and doctrines changed when the Legion was reunited with their Primarch, their father, Comrade Curze, the Night Haunter, an alter ego, the manifestation of what became the Primarch's twisted view of justice, began its influence of the Legion, now the Night Lords. Growing up alone in the dark, rotten world of Nostromo, Conrad had developed an outset that ensured his blind justice. Fear. Fear was the tool to create utopia, a place free from crime. Conrad, all alone on Nostromo, forged his twisted justice by observing the crime-ridden streets and through the memories of people whose brains he ingested. Conrad, even from his very first thought, knew he was to be an instrument of justice. He was judge, jury, and executioner. As he took to the streets, he enacted his vigilante justice indiscriminately. Every break of social order was punished. Murderers and thieves were cut down, irrespective of any reasoning. But to the Primarch's dismay, crime continued. Roaming gangs still butchered poor souls, and people stole for wealth, or mostly just for food to survive. To the Primarch, his evolving philosophy on justice was incomplete. What good was punishment if it did not deter others? It was only when the Night Haunter tapped into fear that he found the results he wanted. Every single crime was punished the same way, a broadcasted torture session, leaving the victim begging for death. We fear what may be lurking in the dark. We fear the outsider. We fear change. We fear what will happen to those who we care for. But perhaps most of all, we fear a gruesome fate. Conrad created a world gripped by fear. Children learned of the Night Haunter, a giant humanoid figure who would torture you to death for even the smallest error. The world of Nostromo became a totalitarian nightmare. The world was at peace, but only because the fear of stepping out of line was so great, people became caricatures of humans, going through the motions, smiling, working and living, but beneath it all, it was fear. The Night Haunter took his vigilante philosophy to the stars when he was reunited with his legion. The 8th, a legion known for its view on swift, crushing justice upon their enemies, changed. Conrad's doctrines were designed for ruling, but how did it fare in conquest? Conrad's attitude to war was an extremely utilitarian view, with a twisted incorporation of his methods for achieving it. Conrad's and the Night Lord's purpose was justice. Would it be just for millions to die in the mud, sacrificed in a war in which they would be unremembered? Humans are panicky, gossipy beasts. The 8th Legion became icons of fear, just how Conrad became the Night Haunter. Their armor was shaped and decorated in a way that conjured dread. If you are honest with yourself, you know that you would not be brave if you came to face them. As the Legion would begin their conquest of a non-compliant human world during the Great Crusade, it would be these giant spectres of death that burned into the eyes of the terrified defenders. But no battle came, just silence, until to the world's horror, they would discover only a select few had been kidnapped. Their torture was broadcasted, a slow and excruciating death that in your imagination you could not even colour the horror. The Legion became what their father moulded them to be, torturers, icons of fear that caused such dread that worlds would capitulate out of fear, but in turn sparing millions from death. The few suffered for the many. Conrad and the Legion saw what they did as a necessary evil, as a sacrifice. They were willing to do unspeakable things in the name of peace. In a way they were right. Billions who would have died lived, but they were wrong, and the truth lies in the words spoken by his son Sevatar.
Answer me, father. What politics of peace did you teach? What scientific and social illumination did you bring to this society in your quest for human utopia? What other ways did you try beyond eating the flesh of stray dogs and skinning people alive? The only way to do what? The only way to bring a population to heel? Then how did the other Primarchs manage it? How has world upon world managed it? Without resorting to butchering children and broadcasting their screams across the planetary voxnet, you came to love it, just as we did. The power, the righteousness.
They became a walking contradiction, a legion of murderers and thieves. Sevatar was right. Using fear was easy, but it was not the only way. Conrad and the Legion brought peace, but that peace is a joke. The philosophy was about achieving justice, where the least casualties, a conquest and rule where less died, but no one really lived. For those closer to the Primarch, such as Sevatar and Talos Valkoran, they both came to a bitter conclusion about their father and the Legion, that all they had done was in vain. Worlds they had conquered either rebelled later when they were left alone or overcame their fear, and that in trying to enact their blind justice they had become monsters. They fought for an imperium that had no place for them, a justice that left no place for nuance. Sometimes when you look at these ruthless vigilante characters, you envy the imagery, the power they exude. But like with Conrad and the Legion, the truth is they are broken, tormented people, deluded into thinking they are martyrs for a utopia that could have been achieved another way.
I came from nothing. I scrabbled in the quarry pits and down in the deepest mines, carrying buckets on my shoulder because the ascender blew a gasket. I broke my fingernails on raw ore and grew blisters from heat and labour. You look down on them, blind to the beauty of their struggle, blind to what they might become if only someone would scrape the filth from their faces. Look at them, my sons. You are the highest, they the lowest. It is your duty to raise them up, as high as they will go. Anything less is not worthy of you.
Perfection, an achievement without flaws, or a journey with an unobtainable goal. Fulgrim and the Emperor's children strive towards perfection, and yet we see the results of that journey is a twisted legion, fallen to chaos, who indulge in the most depraved acts the human mind can comprehend. Why have these once paragons of humanity become so twisted? It begins on terror. Unity has been achieved. The wars of unification are over, and the numerous tribes, kingdoms and enclaves have been brought into the Imperium of Man. From the noble families of Europa, their children were offered up, proud to have their lineage join the ranks of the Emperor of Mankind's elite. It was a chance for prestige, These proud sons were transformed, infused with chemicals and gene seeds, and turned into large, magnificent warriors. Stronger, faster, and smarter than baseline humanity. The Third Legion were a legion proud to be serving in the great destiny of reuniting mankind across the stars, even earning the exclusive right to bear the Palatine Aquila across their chest as a symbol of their bravery and abilities in protecting the Emperor. But that pride was shattered when the Third, not even a year after their greatest triumph, experienced the viral blight. Their gene seed was corrupted, and new legionaries could not be built. The proud sons of nobles belonged to a withering legion, afraid not of death, but a shameful legacy. The mindset of these last remaining legionaries was a prideful one. With their low numbers, they served as champions in the Astra Militarum, lone duelists who would constantly train their martial skill, as well as learning to behave as an image, a rallying point for their mortal allies. When it seemed this legion was about to be lost to the annals of history, they were saved by the return of their Primarch, their father, Fulgrim. Fulgrim was magnificent, a man who had risen from a quarry miner to the leader of an entire planet. Fulgrim had created a philosophy about perfection. He had seen the lowest of humanity and saw how with dedication all could be raised up, empowered to rise up as high as we could go. Self-improvement, something we all strive to do, be it mind or body. Becoming the best version of yourself is admirable and important. In fact, do you not dream of the person you could become? It was this philosophy of self-improvement, forged in the mind of the Primarch, that became the Legion's doctrine, for they would aim as high as they could go. They were the Emperor of mankind's warriors, his children. Anything less was not worthy of them. Fulgrim changed the Legion. With fresh gene seed available from the source, recruits swelled the ranks. They embraced the mindset of becoming champions of the Imperium, just like their early days amongst the Astra Militarum. The Emperor's children trained rigorously. They pursued excellence in all things, such as arts and culture, decorating their armor in ways that captured the essence of demigods, humanity perfected. Fulgrim became a symbol, a facade that encompassed the best of the Imperium. Noble, talented, cultured and strong. He knew the effect he had on others if he presented himself as a perfect being, how it inspired people, but also how it separated him from that quarry mine, the time he had been the lowest. Similarly, how the Legion born from the noble bloodlines erased the shame of being nearly wiped from the viral blight and disbanded. But there is a problem to the philosophy of perfectionism, a problem that led Fulgrim and the Legion down a path of corruption, to the path of chaos.
Going from the pursuit of perfection in all things to ultimate depravity isn't a journey anybody makes in one step. It's a series of small ones, each one justifiable in its own isolated way. But after you've taken 100 of those small steps, you're a long way from who you were at the start.
Perfection, the ideal, a journey that made Fulgrim and the Emperor's children refine themselves. They were raised up, but the problem comes from when those at the top stare down at those below. The Legion's mindset began to slowly transform during the latter part of the Great Crusade, in part due to the influence of the demon Layer blade possessed by Fulgrim. The Primarch and the Legion started to let the image of perfect soldiers go to their head. They became arrogant. Worst of all, their journey to perfectionism meant that it was never enough. They became numb to each achievement and sensation they experienced. Every strategy could be refined more. Each piece of art could be more exciting and captivating. Every dopamine high could be bigger. Fulgrim and the Legion had changed, because their philosophy on perfection was not tempered by humility. They began to believe in the delusion that they could actually achieve it. Have you ever felt the sensation of skill or victory, that welling up of self-confidence? Those few seconds where you felt on top of the world. What would you give to feel that way permanently? Fulgrim and his son's self-confidence was pushed to such a level it became true arrogance, not the facade of the early Great Crusade. This was a weakness in their hearts, one that chaos exploited. During the Horus Heresy, with the acceptance of Slanesh as their patron deity, the Legion's mindset changed once more, over 2 centuries of small steps, and now the Legion took its last. The shackles of humility and reason were shattered. Fulgrim and the Emperor's children became obsessed with exploration of every act and sensation, each a reward for these perfect warriors. Fulgrim's perfection was selfish. His body was transforming into his new twisted ideal, a face that exuded lust, a multi-limbed snaked body for impeccable swift combat. The Legion's new philosophy became one of embracing their passions, no matter how dark. Each lustful and depraved act is perfected and taken to the extreme. Fulgrim and the Legion's downfall was never the fact that they strode towards perfection. It was them believing that they were close to it. The very perfection of a man is to find his own imperfections. They forgot that they were once people who needed the dirt wiped from their eyes. A journey that ended in evil because they wanted to be perfect for themselves and not for others.